Hello, 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 my patrons and followers. Today, I'm going to talk about part 2 of the Valkyrie. And what I shared in the last video was this idea of thinking outside the box, as the Norse always did. They have a very flexible and fluid way of interconnecting everything. Things are not as segmented as they are in our modern times when it comes to spirituality. Thinking outside of the box about the Valkyrie and what and who they really are. You know, in our modern times, we've got this beautiful busty girl that has like basically a bikini made out of shield armor on, and we kind of look at it like that. And there is this element of them being presented that way, obviously not literally bikini, but these lovely female spirits that encapsulate and captivate warriors into this intertwined love, which I'll talk about in a second. But they are so much more. We know this is not just a presumption. We know that Valkyries, Norns, Filia are interchangeably used in the sagas, in the Eddas, in the Valkyrie poems, in these types of things. That there is a leaning that they're all these are the ancestral female spirits and goddesses. They're all part of that broad Disa group, but also that, you know, they are kind of one and in the same type of being, except maybe they have different roles, just like you might. So you may be somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's lover, all at the same time. It's that type of way that they are looked at and expressed. You can read a lot about these concepts in Maria Kvilhog's book, The Maiden and the Mead, where she really talks about how this maiden, there's always a maiden offering some warrior mead after he accomplishes some big thing. It's the mead of poetry, which kind of, it goes back to representing resurrection or rebirth. It's a very interesting book, a very interesting concept. And she really parallels that as well, that the maiden with the mead is the Valkyrie, the Norns, all of that, the Dis are representing that and their power. And why this is so important is, yes, to accurately be able to have relationship with these beings, because we know at the end of the day, everything comes down to relationship in Norse spirituality, your relationship with the land, your relationship with things around you. Super important. I always talk about in trolldom, it's all about relationship with the tools you're working with. So all of these things come down to relationship, and you always have a better relationship when you understand what and who you're in relationship with. If you're taking the time to get to know them better or understand them or listen, it's always more productive. We see this reflected in our everyday life, in relationships with humans in our lives. So I am going to give you a little bit of information from one of my books that I'm writing in. And this is about the Norns and the Valkyrie and the Filia really having a conflation between themselves. A similarity almost, and sometimes being used synonymously. They have shared roles in fate, and that is one of the biggest things that makes us go, oh, are they the same? Is there something there? Think about when I talked about the Njal saga last time in the first Valkyrie video that I did. You can go listen to that if you haven't, where we see this grisly weaving of these Valkyries. They are said to be Valkyries in the burial mound, in the tomb that's being observed by this man, and how they take different men's body parts, dead people's body parts, and use their entrails and their skulls and their bones to create a huge giant loom. And they weave and they chant, which we love to do in trolldom. Even if you're not weaving literally, you're weaving your spells by speaking and chanting. That's really what magic is. So they're doing this in this context. That's a Norn. That's what the Norns do. So we see that very strongly being presented to us in a way that the reader who would be familiar with these concepts, which we're not really, the way we would be then anyway, they would recognize that. They would say, oh, these are goddesses of fate. These are goddesses of fate. There's this idea of overlapping when it comes to destinies. Even names are overlapped. Snorri Sturluson talks about in the Völuspá. He refers, and in the Golfginning, he refers to Skuld, the youngest Norn. Those of you in Skuld here. The Skuld as a Valkyrie. He specifically lists that she goes on the battlefield and chooses the slain. Well, but she's a Norn. She's one of the three main Norns when we talk about the wells and fate and destiny. I think that's very, very interesting. So she is mentioned as a Valkyrie, but she's also mentioned as a Norn. So that right there is enough for me. But anyway, so they are goddesses of fate and destiny. We know that just like the Norns weave fate, the Valkyries choose fate. Who's going to die on the battlefield? So maybe they are a specific type of Norn that deals with warriors or the slain only. See what I mean? Or maybe they're when someone's about to die in a certain way, they're the ones that are there. So that kind of leads us over into the Valkyrie and the Filia. Well, how can they be the same? We know that the Filia oftentimes, most of the time, will present itself as an animal. But we know that they're a female spirit, sometimes that protectively follows a clan or an individual. The Filia really is like a personal Norn that follows you throughout your life. And then when it's in front of you and presents itself to you, that's when your death comes. But Filia actually really means one that follows. So it's a protective Norn. It's a Norn that follows you throughout your life, that is there to maybe intervene or alter fate for you so that it goes in your favor. Or if you need a lesson, it's still in your favor, but we would not perceive it as favorable, right? So that too really makes the Valkyrie and the Filia have a connection. Why? Because Valkyries follow people as a protective entity. We know that the Valkyrie will follow certain warriors and build this relationship with them, this love bond, this intense connection, which is all representative of, it's a poetic way to show that entity is weaving that person's life. The Valkyrie and the Filia are connected to one's fate and fortune. The Filia is very connected to the Hemingja and that inherited type of luck, or the luck that you can change by being more noble and making right choices, and you can build and sow into your luck so that you can then pass on something better to your children. We all see that where people will grow up in a chaotic family, or they have a terrible parent and they say, I'm not going to be like that, I'm going to change, and they break the ancestral negative bonds and produce something better that then their children can saturate in and inherit. And that's a beautiful thing. Very much that is all directed by the figlia that is guiding and helping with fate and fortune, whether you have it or you don't. And fortune isn't limited to money. It is about abundance, having an abundant life, fulfilling life, happy life. It's not just about, money. It's not about the money. See, if you don't watch the videos all the way through, you miss stuff like that. Just kidding. Sorry. Anyway, yes, the figlia follows the person like a guardian, like a personal Norn, but also like a Valkyrie. Valkyries were the protectors and lovers. They had a very much a guardian-like role. We know that many times Valkyries would swoop in and make sure someone wasn't getting killed and would help fight with them. And the figlia also, as I said, were omens of death. Now they follow behind you, but then when you are presented with like totally seeing your figlia, that means you're about to die. I was with my mother when she died, in her bed with her, holding her hand and snuggling with her. Oh my God, the most precious gift. I'm so thankful. She was with my father when he died, holding him, hugging him in bed when he passed. I'm so grateful that my parents had that. I mean, that to me is like one of the best gifts ever. But when I was with my mother, and they say this, hospice nurses say this, people who take care of and deal with those that are passing, that they will see something right before they die, like somebody's coming to get them. Often they'll speak out names or say something, as my mother did. And so that figlia is an omen of death. And so is the Valkyrie, showing up on the battlefield and choosing the slain. That doesn't mean they're already dead and they go, I want that dead guy, I want that dead guy. It's like, who's going to be slain? See what I'm saying? So they're both overlapping with these omens of death. And then, of course, the Norns, we know this is the day you're going to die. This is the day you're going to be born. So again, they're all conflated. They're all connected. They're all conducive and parallel to one another. And so some sources we have, well, actually this broad category of the Dis, or the Diser, as I spoke in the last video, some sources will use that synonymously, the word Dis or Diser, with the Valkyrie. It's an interchangeable thing. So we do have this tremendous amount of evidence that these beings really are one and the same. They just maybe have different roles, as we do at different points in our life. And as we said, even some like Skuld have different roles in their own being. So maybe they're all Norns. Maybe sometimes if they're doing certain things, it's Valkyrie related. Maybe that's all what the figlia is. We don't know exactly, but we do know that they are together, going together, and part of one another. That brings us to Freya. Freya is the ultimate Valkyrie. She's the ultimate chooser of the slain. As a matter of fact, she is in control, not Odin. The Valkyries go to her first. She chooses the slain first, takes the first half. He gets the leftovers. The power is in the woman, and I am so wanting you guys to understand that, because as the patriarchal energy is being challenged more than ever in our modern times, it's hanging on for dear life. It's like a serpent slow thrashing, and when it knows its time is short. We have to understand that the power rests in the female. And I did a little blip on social media about the patriarchy in Norse tradition and how men are very threatened with women talking about runes, doing runic work, doing Norse shamanic work, using that term loosely, shamanic, because we know where it originates from, but it's the best word that we have to describe what we do. They seem to, in writing books and in traveling around and speaking, the men hold that space in Norse spirituality. And I think it's threatening to them. They want to gatekeep it. And part of it, I'm sure, is good intention, that they want accurate stuff, but it's just so disproportionately. There's amazing women in Norse spirituality who have done incredible things and incredible works, and that speak and have insights and write books and teach, but they're just not acknowledged the way they are with men. We see it in trolldom as well. So I think it's important for us to understand that this is where the true, I hate to use the word power, because to me it has kind of a negative connotation, but what gives birth is the seed of the power. And we know what gives birth. We know where there is a portal between the legs of a woman. And I just think that's important. Now, that's why it's more important than ever for me to have men, those that identify as male, be students of mine, because I want them to flourish with that balance. Because a lot of times it's very one-sided when you are trained in other ways. So I really, 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 I love my boys, because they're just the most, when you have that combination of understanding and it coming together like that, the male perspective with the respect of the D's, it's just a beautiful combination. So I just want you guys to know how special you are. I don't want to make this look like, yeah, my ladies, they already got it, and you guys, are lesser beings. And that's not what I'm trying to convey at all. It's all about balance, right? It's all about Gevo. But Freya, not to get too off track, is a goddess of war. Why? Because she's on the battlefield. She is there choosing the slaying. She is the Valkyrie of Valkyries. We know that she, in a way, controls fate and destiny. We know that she is a goddess of fertility and love. Another thing I want to mention before I totally forget is when we see the love relationship between the Valkyrie and these warriors, and it talks about them having sex or laid in their arms and that's always a euphemism for death. So you don't want to wish that you could feel that deep intimacy with your Valkyrie, because that means you're dying. But that's always a euphemism for that. And we see this with the Jotun as well. So the daughters of Ran, certain waves that overtake ships. It says that Jotun, that ogress, wanted to lie with, so and so, and who was on that ship. She wanted to have intercourse with him. She wanted to take his life by drowning. So in the ocean, if you had with one of those beings, if it's referred to as a sexual nature or lying with them, that meant that was death by drowning. So the lady, Freya, the lady, expresses herself in many avatars, in many aspects of fertility, of life, and different relationships and different beings. We know that Frigg and Freya originally were the same goddess, and then just like all these things, you know, we say that the religion that's closest, it's not really, the religion that's closest to Norse spirituality is Hinduism. And you see these reoccurring things, and a lot of people don't like when people talk about this, that, you know, it's kind of like ancestral cults and certain cults where there's a great goddess or god, but they have many different faces. It's even in Christianity, only now they've kind of eradicated it. But the Trinity, even if Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, that is one actual being. And then, you know, they change, they're always changing every few hundred years, that kind of shifts, which is kind of normal in living religions or religions that are present. But we say that it all kind of goes back to the same thing, this animistic worldview. And then as everybody migrated and moved around the globe, their environments, because it's animistic, changes it and affects it. So if you're in the desert with the sand, you're going to relate and connect differently, and the beings that you're going to encounter are different. Likewise, if you're in the North Pole or if you're in the Amazon jungle. So, and some people have a problem with us kind of saying things like that because it might take the autonomy away or the agency away of individual spirits, or leads to like an appropriative type of blanket, everything's the same, and reduces the culture in a simple way that's not efficient. And I understand that is true. But at the same time, we have to understand where it all comes from. It really comes from the same place as we evolved as modern humans. But then we discovered all these beautiful things all over, and they are different, and they do have agency, and so they should be respected and honored in their way that they should. So likewise, Freya and Frigg coming from the same place, and then as the cultures separated and moved, they began to take on different aspects, and there became this aspect of Frigg being more in a modern home environment, not this wild fertility Freya thing, but a woman of the hearth and the home. But that's because we evolved to have hearths and homes. See, we didn't always. We had the fire, the sacred fire. So these are just thoughts I want you to think about when you are building your relationships with the things around you, with these entities and these spirits. And I hope that I enlightened you on the aspect of the Valkyries and what they are. Do you have an ancestral one? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have a filia. I'm sure you have these guardian spirits, human and non-human. So tap into that energy, and I love you guys, and thank you for being patient for this video. And those of you who are in my Verdandi tier and are supposed to have your video, those of you that do that 40 a month connection, make sure you contact me to set up your connection. Or if you're in Sacred Bones, message me so we can do our video. I can't chase after you to remind you. If you don't have to do it, but that is included in your tier, so I just don't want you to feel like you're missing out. And the rest of you, you know, you can always talk to me on the Discord, our Norse Talk Discord. Back in the day, Norse Talk, what was it, like 7 years ago? And now it's like taking on this whole other like, what are you gonna do? Start things and let the people take over. But anyway, love you guys. Take care. Blessings to you all, and tack